I wanted to make a series on some practical kanji and words used in various places that I and others could learn useful information from. I was on a flight, and as I normally do when prompted with a language choice, I chose Japanese. Thankfully, I can read the menu screens pretty easy now. However, when I started learning Japanese some time ago, I didn't really know most of the words in any menu screen, even though they may generally be pretty simple. And back when I was a super new beginner, I realized that it might be useful if I went and learned these words from the menu screen. Because I thought if I just learned a good amount of them, I should be able to navigate any menu in Japanese, whether it's Netflix, a website, or a game. And after coming to the realization that learning even just 10 words on a specific topic, like a menu screen, could give you enough information to use a site, I came to the idea of doing it for other things like food menus and signs. And I think if I just learned, say, the 10 most common words on a food menu, I should be mostly fine navigating any food menu, I would think. And 10 words in one day is easily accomplishable. So it seems like an effective way to learn practical information to me. And before I get into the video too much, I would like to say this is really for beginners. It's not really meant if you want to learn more complex computer terms. This is just the basic stuff you can find in any menu screen. There's two words that you'll see everywhere, and being so common, they're probably the most useful, and that's why they're at the beginning of the list. You might know them though, as they're pretty common, and they're only N4. Games, video services, websites, basically everything you will use will have these. Susumu and Modoru. Modoru will basically be used on every screen, either as the back button or sometimes the cancel button. Although the cancel button I have seen as many different words. Just like English how sometimes it's back, return, or cancel, Japanese will use different ones, but it's usually pretty easy to figure out. I don't know why people in any language like using so many different words for cancel. Similarly, you'll usually see Susumu right next to it as the continue button. These two words are by far the most important. Besides these two words, I don't think any other words are really as important, because menu screens are usually pretty good with general visual hints, that being arrows and icons. These are by far the most important though, because these will normally just be buttons, and sometimes they will swap places. Now, as I said, Modoru will sometimes be swapped for something else. In this instance here, you have Modoru as a cancel next to Susumu. However, on the top left, you have Tojiru. Luckily though, this one is accompanied by a visual hint, but it will pretty much always mean close. Right here I'm prompted with a parental advisory warning, so if I want to close this window and not watch the movie, I can click Tojiru to exit. Tsugi will also appear quite often, functioning as another continue or next button. Here, after choosing my level of Portuguese knowledge, I can click Tsugihei to confirm that I want to go to the next menu. If you use Duolingo in Japanese for some odd reason, this is really helpful as it appears on every single screen, though it's obviously not just going to appear on Duolingo. Looking up here, you have Erande. Contrary to all the previous words, this one's often not a button, but more telling you to choose something. In this case, it's telling me to choose the words that have the same meaning. Other times it could be telling you to choose an option or something along those lines. And oftentimes it will be followed by kudasai. The next one I've really come to like. It feels like a really unique way to use a kanji. I don't think it would really be considered a word when it's used this way. You probably know it as naka or chu or middle. However, in menu screens, it's really commonly used as loading or that something is in progress. Basically in the middle of blank. In this instance, it's in the middle of load, meaning it's in the middle of loading. Sometimes the katakana version will also be replaced with yomikomi, which just means loading as well. I don't really understand how that came to mean loading in computer terms, but all that really matters is it does. I've come to think of this one as just adding ing to the end of something, basically just telling you it's in progress. And this one's really cool not just for menu terms, but I've seen it used in a lot of different ways. This is probably my favorite one out of all of them though. I just really like how unique it is. Kensaku, meaning search or to look something up. I find this in pretty much every search bar, not that it's really that useful because every search bar has the little magnifying icon that tells you. However, I think with it being so common, it's nice to remember it. It's a little harder than the other ones to remember, I think though, just because the kanjis are more difficult than the others. Since they're much more complex, I'm just going to do a short breakdown of the kanjis. Ken, meaning examine or investigate, and saku, meaning search or inquiring. So just put together, it means search in computer terms. These words alone will help you understand most of what you're doing, at least the direction you're going in. You might not know what you're hitting continue for, but at least you'll know that you are continuing. If you actually want to learn from changing all your menus to Japanese, whether that's just a specific game or changing your entire phone to Japanese, I think there's some pretty important things to do. I changed my phone a long time ago to Japanese, and I realized a couple things. Unless you're in a complex settings menu, you don't really need to know any words, which might sound good at first, however, you aren't really learning anything. So you really need to make sure you're paying attention to what's going on, instead of just clicking the button by muscle memory. I think it's best to consciously say the word, either out loud or in your head, and recall the meaning, compared to just clicking it based on muscle memory. Which obviously I wouldn't recommend you say the things over and over again that you already know, because you're probably just going to go insane. However, just doing it for some of the words you're having trouble with will quickly make them really recognizable. Also making flashcards for some of the stuff you see. Just most importantly, don't forget that your menus are in Japanese in order to learn, not just to have your menus in Japanese. And if you're going to switch your YouTube or Netflix or something to Japanese, I would say quickly just go in there and write down some of the more common things you see. Like if you're watching stuff on a video or movie platform, whether that's YouTube, Netflix, or even the plain TV, doga will refer to video, pretty much just one-to-one, and on a streaming service you'll usually see eiga for movie, dorama for dramas, shirizu for series, and notice that you already understand drama and series. This is very common in menus to have tons of things be loanwords, especially in games. Though I have noticed on Japanese sites there will tend to be less of this, especially if you go onto something a little bit more professional like a news site or something of the sort. And before you change all your menus to Japanese, just make sure you know how to get back there because it will get very confusing very fast. And I didn't go over too many words in this video because I think it would be way too repetitive. So I will be putting an Anki deck in the description. And I'll probably make another video about specific things, like Netflix words or YouTube words, and I'll talk about each word a little bit more. So I think that would be a lot more helpful than if I just went and listed every single word that I see in any menu screen. Thanks for watching though. Always make sure you're learning, and good luck. Bye bye.